I thought he, after those first two drives, like just the eye test, the explosive plays, the accuracy, he is like Jalen's best attribute. He didn't really do it today, but it's like this kind of mobile, deep playmaker. Like when he scrambles, they're great at the scramble drill, right? And honestly, if you watch the Eagles, their passing game, their biggest plays all come with him on the move for the most part. It's scary, and they like have this perfect. And Olsen talked about it, like when the scramble drill actually is not going deep, it's go deep and then work back, and they hit that play over and over. But they also hit the deep ball. And Jalen has a good deep ball outside the numbers thrower. Brock is an elite, just the intermediate short passing game. I mean, honestly, he feels like 90% on passes that like a lot of quarterbacks just aren't as consistent. Right? Jimmy never was. Derek Carr's career is in shambles because he's not. And this is, you're talking about a small margin. And then he also makes the explosive plays. But just the play, how many times a day, even if it's more like a shorter pass, like that schemed up play to Kittle, which they clearly knew was going to, to neutralize that pass rush.
Oh, after he chipped on Reddick.
But like to hit him where he doesn't have to go, it's just right like this as he's moving, his accuracy on these passes. So it's like, well, all the yak. He's hitting these guys in fucking stride. On the McCaffrey pass down the sideline, like it's just his accuracy. We thought once upon a time Baker Mayfield was going to be the next Drew Brees. It turns out maybe this guy's the modern version because he's more mobile. Like Brees didn't have the mobility. Like this guy's a mobile version of just elite accuracy. Because that's he's never going to have Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes' arm, right? Favre, Rodgers. Like he's not. Maybe his arm improves as he gets older, but like it's always going to have a limitation. Like he's not going to be able to not set his feet and throw a 40-yard dot, right? But Drew Brees built a Hall of Fame career, and he couldn't even move. This guy's athleticism is, I would say, even people that were bullish, last year, they didn't truly like study Purdy's career at Iowa State, because I would imagine if we really went in depth, you'd see him moving around a lot. Would be like, yeah, he's nowhere near. Like I'm still amazed this season how good of an athlete he is.
Yeah, same.
His athleticism is. He's not Lamar Jackson, but it's pretty high end for a quarterback, right? Like most of the quarterbacks you and I have watched through our life just didn't have that. They were good, right? And when you do, right, and you're a good player, which is why Rodgers had the Favre arm, but he had the mobility of a mobile quarterback. He was unstoppable, right? Steve Young, what he hung his hat on was accurate. He was the most accurate quarterback of all time before Drew Brees, but he didn't have a huge arm like Montana, right? It was much more accuracy. And that's where, to me, the mold, like this guy's never going to be a Marino in Elway, like the way those guys were talked about, but he's going to be in the mold of if this continues, because right now, like it's just undebatable what his early on his career equals. The Young, the Breezes, like this version of something in that category, right?
Yeah, I think to me, the crazy thing about him, and you just described it pretty well, is that he does these things that you forget how hard it is when you watch him to operate as cleanly as he operates. And then you watch somebody else and you realize, oh, it's not that efficient. And then you watch him, you're like, well, what is he doing that's spectacular? Well, it's kind of the invisible thing, but it's the hardest thing, is to get through your reads real quick and then get the ball out. And I think maybe part of why he can be as mobile as he is because he gets through his reads so fast that when he decides to run, for the most part, it happens pretty quick. He's usually, because you notice, right, when the pocket's collapsing around him, he's usually not getting out of that the way that Hurts can. He just decides pretty quickly, nothing there, I got to go. And then he gets out. And it helps, too, that I think some of his mobility comes when he's rolling out already, and then he can kind of figure out. He knows himself really well. This is to go back to Baker. Baker tried to do a lot of things that he actually wasn't capable of physically. Didn't adjust to the speed from college to the NFL. Whereas Brock, my guess is if we went and watch all the Iowa State tape, it'd be kind of the same.
Yeah,
right? He'd get rid of the ball in spots where you'd assume maybe he made a few more plays with his legs in college. I bet he didn't. I bet it was the same. Like he just understands, like, I don't have a play to make here. It's gone. Ball's out. Fine. I thought the other throw that stood out, just looking back at my notes, It kind of happened twice when Purdy was facing an avalanche and made it happen once after the Greenlaw situation. The Niners' third possession, remember, they got a false start. They were 2nd down and 15 at their own 10-yard line.
Yeah.
And he hits Ayuk on, he made it look easy. Boom, there's Ayuk. Ayuk got whatever, 8, maybe 9, 10 back. And then he hit the play to Kittle, which was just kind of Kittle just kind of sat down and was open outside, on the left numbers. And they converted the first down. And it felt like, whew, all right, didn't take anything crazy. We've seen them remember it happened in Cleveland where they're like deep in their own territory, kind of the rain's falling, the crowd's getting loud, false start, 2nd and 15 or 2nd and 25, and they can't really make anything happen. They got to give it to McCaffrey and hope to punt. That's not what happened there. And then they scored a touchdown on that drive, and it was on. They scored. I mean, they scored 6 straight touchdowns. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is a good point. Those 2 passes were really big. Like the avalanche was coming in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And Ayuk, after he got the 10 yards, gave this kind of like, it was like, I can do this all day against you, buddy.
Yeah.
There's an arrogance that those guys, maybe they elevate Purdy. Like Purdy plays pretty arrogant. He doesn't, chirp or whatever. There is just an element of confidence. Like when he lets the ball, I'm never, when the ball leaves his hand, never don't think it's going to be in the right spot. And we're going from Jimmy Garoppolo, which was the ultimate roller coaster. Even Jalen today, I didn't have as much confidence as the game kind of went on, just because they felt kind of off, and they clearly got away from the run game fast. Now they I guess fell behind, but 14-6. That's a good example where you don't have to pivot away from what you do. Now the Niners had the ball after half, right, and scored, so it was 21-6, and then it just felt like it was on like Donkey Kong. So yeah, I mean, I would say his cohesion with these guys. Who'd I hear? It came in my timeline. And Coward had on Ed McCaffrey last week. And Ed said that last year when Christian showed up, Brock, because remember at the time, Jimmy wasn't hurt. So Brock spent extra time with Christian to teach him the offense. And who knows? I mean, it's easy to say now, but Ed's like, Christian kept telling me, like, this guy fucking talks like a coach or something. He knows all this. Again, it's, some of these stories can grow as the player.
Right.
I'm not saying that he probably didn't know his shit, but it's just easy to say now. But I just wonder if there's an ability. His football IQ is elite, but a lot of people can see stuff. It's what makes a lot of quarterbacks, they can't execute it. Like, I think if you ask Derek, like, what you're supposed to do against this look, like, he knows at this point in time, but he can no longer really execute it. Yet Purdy can just go and execute it. And then also have the kind of the freelance stuff, which is something no one ever thought, right? Not to this level. And I would imagine a lot of people that kind of want to hate on him, like, this guy can't be that good, watches some of these moments like, God, this guy's fucking pretty good. Because how could you watch this game if you're one of these people, whether you do this for a living, whether you're a fan who's talking shit, and not be like, God, that guy's pretty good. How could you not have that take? I don't, like, what other take could you have today? Well, he's playing with Debo and McCaffrey, or you see some of these passes he's making? See some of the scrambles? It'd be another thing, right? If he was truly like Joe Flacco, can't move or whatever. You're like, well, they have the best O-line. He doesn't get touched. That's not the way this guy's playing. Some of these plays, like running for his life. Even some of his throwaway plays, like scrambling. Like that helps the Niners a lot. I think his athleticism is a huge added variable in a positive way for the team.
The other thing, if you're one of those people, John, is like you've watched, the Niners have played in a ton of big games the last several years with Jimmy. Like, this is clearly better than that. I know that's not the bar, but it's like, if you think, well, it's just play with these players and play with Kyle and it's easy, Jimmy did it at a pretty high level, right? It's not like there was always a debate about Jimmy in terms of how good is he or what's the whatever, but it was not debatable based on how much they won that it was happening at a high level. And this is significantly better than Garoppolo looked. So you can't just chalk it up to the surrounding talent and the coach. Although we could have a separate conversation about Kyle and what a good day he had. But like, just start with that. Like, we all watched the Jimmy era. This feels very different. Not a little different, very different.
Boy, 70%, 23-6. So even if he doesn't sustain the
23
70%,
touchdowns, 6 picks.
Yeah, which I do think sustaining, just doing what he's doing, is not out of the realm of possibility. But let's just say it ends up 68-5. He's got Seattle. He's got Arizona.
I'm sorry, 68.5?
I'm just saying, let's say his completion percentage ends up at 68.5,
Oh,
not 70. Like, let's say it doesn't end up at 70%. It's in 68 or, low 69, which I not every game's going to be. I guess even today, though, he was 19 of 27. So it's not like he was 19 of 20.
Which is 70%.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like 70%, huh?
It looks worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I know.
Even though when I watched it, it felt better.
Let me do the math again. 70.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm with you.
But he's headed toward 30 touchdowns, right? And he threw 4 today, but he has a game where he gets 1, but then he has a couple more where he gets 3. Like, he's getting to 30, 32. Let's say he throws a couple more picks. I mean, he's 32, 8 or 9, and 69%. That's a fucking remarkable season. Remember, we were like, what could Trey Lance be one day? We're like, just get to 27 and maybe some running touchdowns. And obviously that was never going to happen. Jimmy was like, get to 24 touchdowns. He'd be like, woohoo. If this guy gets to 30 touchdowns.
You said he's at 23-5. Is that what you said?
That's what the internet showed me.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Oh, no, I didn't remember what you said.
I got 70 touchdowns, or excuse me, 70.2 completion percentage, 3,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. So he's going to get to 4,000 plus yards. Hell, he might get to 4,500 yards.
I just think the reason I asked you again is because I was just counting it up. With 5 games to play, let's say he starts playing much worse and is 1 touchdown and 1 pick per game. That's 28 and 10, which you would have taken at the beginning of the year, right? Now, that's not
Seattle's pass defense is not very good. Arizona's terrible. So even if the Ravens, let's just say you get no touchdowns, and they, it's a 19 to 17 game. They
throw in 2 picks, make it terrible.
Exactly. They got so many other games that he's going to fucking rack off. His next 2 games are Seattle and Arizona. Like, what would you put the over/under touchdown passes? 4.5, 5?
Yeah, I mean, you never know. You start blowing them out, you just start running the ball. But yeah, if he guys are gonna score from 40 yards out, 20 yards out consistently, you can't stop that.
But he throws red zone touchdowns,
right?
So
Kyle lets him throw. Like I said, Kyle throws the ball with him. But how about the throw? Do you remember when Olsen said early in the game, it's like, we're about to find out if they run it here, this is 4 down territory. And it was like a 3rd and 3. And it was just boop, boop. McCaffrey had just been stopped in short yardage. And he just made it look easy. I mean, I was texting with Ethan Sherwood-Strauss today about it, this week about it, because he's like, I think Kyle just really trusts this guy so much. And it's really clear not how much more, we don't have to compare everything to Jimmy, how much he trusts him. You would have to put it on the top end of just watch football. Just watch what the coaches ask their quarterbacks to do, how much they trust their guys in big spots, deep in their own territory, 3rd down, short yardage. Like, he really trusts Brock a lot. You'd say probably Andy and Mahomes have elite trust, but it's pretty high-end trust that Kyle has in him. I'm pretty sure he motherfucked him like twice during the game, but it doesn't change the fact that he trusts him.
Yeah, I mean, I should try texting Ethan about Purdy. I just text him about the shitty in-season NBA ratings.
Ethan's got Niner takes. He says he consumes our content. So we shout out to Ethan. We appreciate that.
Yeah, he's a big Purdy guy.